story Liberation just have vastly different understandings of what Liberation is for.
I haven't seen this much importance and attention.
The story itself is a really wonderful, really great setup.
Tractor beam has been engaged.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tractor Beam Comics Reviews on the Star Wars Underworld Podcast Network. Today is Wednesday, July 17th, 2024. It's the 28th week in comics in 2024. My name is Matthew, and he is Chris. We got two books to talk about this week because we didn't talk about one last week. So we got two to talk about this week, among other things. Don't worry, we'll get to the among other things in a little bit. First off, let's get the quick plugs out of the way. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at IonCannonPod, EYEONCANNONPOD, and at StarRaptor on Twitter at StarRaptor, StarRapter. Also YouTube.com/StarRaptor and Substack.com/StarRaptor. That's where you get all of Chris's great stuff. You can we'll let him talk about it at the end. It's how we do things here on Underworld, etc. Also, speaking of Underworld, the Underworld YouTube channel, here on the Underworld YouTube channel, you can support us through super chats, through to memberships. Do feel free to comment below. If you give us a super chat, you support the channel, we will bump your comment to the top of the pile and get to it immediately or as soon as we can. Otherwise, we'll see how it flows with the conversation, but feel free to comment down below. Also the Star Wars Underworld Discord server. So down in the notes in the description, you can check out that minty fresh link, evergreen link that will get you into our Discord server where you can ask Joel what his favorite flavor of ice cream is, among other things, and chat with Ben and chat with a whole bunch of folks. Chris, you're in there a little bit. Discord. I don't know what events they're doing coming up.
They're doing the long running of the timeline order of Star Wars. I think they're going to be having to get through another season of Young Jedi Adventures.
That was a big
because we got a whole new season coming out in August. Those poor guys.
Yeah. So maybe one day they'll get to season 2 of Young Jedi Adventures. They'll get there. Get to the Acolyte, etc. And then the Phantom Menace eventually. That'll be a big day when they get to Phantom Menace. So.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of comics, speaking of stories, speaking of the Acolyte and High Republic, we got one book from last week, as mentioned, High Republic Adventures number 7, written by Daniel Jose Older, art by Harvey Tolibao, LeBeau Underwood, and Elisabetta D'Amico, colors by Michael Adier, and cover that you saw there by Harvey and Kevin Tolibao. Without the Acolyte branding, I'm disappointed by that. I wanted them to keep milking that for all it's worth, but that's okay. The next thrilling chapter of the High Republic saga starts here. There's no rest for the weary in the High Republic after their reunion and only a moment's respite. Lula, Zine, and their friends learned that the Nile Stonewall has encroached further into Republic space. Now the team of young heroes prepare to defend the planet Ariadu and the Republic at large from an impending Nile invasion. First thing to say, it was a week since I read it, and then I skimmed it a few times. Yeah, kind of along the lines of what you were saying last week, Chris. It really does move the story forward. It's the start of a new arc, and so it does a great job of saying, okay, Lula and Zine, they're moving forward in their personal life. Crix, he's found his way, he's escaped the clutches maybe of Crash and Crash in her crew on Corellia, and maybe rejoin the Nile, maybe not. He seems to be stepping up as well. That might be the theme is that these characters that we've had been with us since day one, more or less. High Republic Adventures phase 1, they were a lot younger. Now they're up where say Vern and Bell and Reith were when that began, and now they're taking on stepping forward. I mean, Lula and Zine, the comedic back and forth that kind of structures and anchors the structure of this issue is Lula and Zine bursting onto the bridge of that ship, being like, "Oh no, I got to find a way to propose. How do I propose? What am I gonna do? What do I buy?" And they all happen to buy the exact same thing. This Tarkin family designed ring thing. Don't quite remember what it is. That was definitely a fun, silly, effectively silly way of funny way of just playing. First of all, how perfect they are for each other, and how it really is fascinating to see Jedi of all three orders, I should say, all three levels, masters, padawans, them all being supportive of
Up, you might want to move close to the mic, rather.
all supportive of what Lula has done, and in saying I can't stay as a Jedi, understanding, of course, that her time with her mind wiped, on this planet, kind of masquerading, literally or otherwise, as this Nihil overlord. That really jolted her in a certain direction, and Zine was there to capture her. And yeah, that this is this welcome, this welcome on part of everyone else. And then lastly, just say, not Chris, Corden Zint on the cover here.
Yep.
As a new kind of mentee,
Mm-hmm.
taking her under his wing, taking Zint under his wing. Even like you mentioned last week with the mask, and she takes it off, not knowing
Yeah.
that that's actually, I don't want to say taboo, but just there's a certain, I mean, as we saw in phase one, this really meaningful rite of passage where they grow big enough to break the mask, and we see Court living into his adulthood by taking Zint under his wing. She gets stuck on the ship at the end, which is also funny. She's just showing up in different places. Yep. So that, and then the last thing I'll say is DJO, he promised Tarkin family drama. And I think we're gonna get some Tarkin family drama here on Ariadu. We sort of see a little bit of it. That's always a question, a challenge of, okay, we know who that Willuff is. We know what he's like. That's 100 something years later, 140 years later, or whatever. And what leads him there? Where do they go? These are part of the Republic, and I mean, even Willuff in Clone Wars, he's kind of in good with Anakin, who we're cheering for at that point, but clearly seeing things go south there. Are the Tarkins going to be more benevolent here? Are they going to be more complicated? I don't know. It's going to be it's a family young and all ages comic, but that's a question. I mean, when you go to Ariada, you kind of have to go there with the Tarkins, and it's in this comic because that's where this is the comic that's set on based on Ariada. So, and I've spoken a lot. You spoke a bit last week. Do you want to pick up what you were saying last week? Do you have any further thoughts on High Republic Adventures number 7?
Yeah, I'll echo what I said last week about the depth of storytelling. There's so much always packed into these issues that I always forget about somehow month to month. I'm always like I take longer to absorb, I'll be honest, and comprehend what's happening in these than a lot of the Marvel comics that are like quick, flashy, action, fun, and that's good too. But like with this, there's so much more character development and evolution. I feel like on every issue, it's just I almost have that kind of like brain freeze moment of, okay, what happened in the last issue? Because I know there was always so much that happens, and it's just trying to recall that information and then sink in for like these new characters as well, like these Tarkins, but also the thing with Zint and coming of age and the connection with the Crash Landing little one shot is great. Seeing, the Crix and Crash Ongwa and a Duwutin dude are like, they're all still, very closely working on this other mission and getting a path drive, and we're seeing that constant through line between all the different material of like, it is so darn hard to get access to a ship with a path drive engine to be able to come and go through the occlusion zone. Like those things self-destruct all the time, so nobody else can get their hands on them. So the fact that Crix has got his hands on them, and he goes to the freaking Gaze Electric, and heck, that might even be Marcian Rowe that's talking at that point, because baby, it's going to be very curious to see
Yeah.
that vantage point, and if he ends up getting turned back to the bad guys, or if he is going to follow all the way through, and then the idea that Crash is going to be his ticket home. So there's a lot of good storytelling, and then the fact that we get back to Iriadu and it's fully under attack, I like that. It's like, all right, cool, that's the new battleground. And there's a reference to Temptation of the Force of the conflict that's going on in Naboo.
Yes.
So I like that overall bigger picture that's being, teased and everything else.
Yeah, and I've just gotten there on Temptation of the Force, where they're
Nice.
Yeah, well, I've gotten a little bit into it. Yeah, I'm about halfway through that. So to see, that the storm wall, and I don't quite know what ends up happening with the storm wall, but I do. I mean, I've gotten to a point in Temptation of the Force where something's happened with the storm wall and the lightning crash, and so, yeah, that the importance of a path drive, that changes the importance of a path drive. Again, I'll have to finish that darn book to actually get a fuller sense. I'm guessing something else happens with both the blight and the storm wall there. Yeah, but the thing about the Nile invading Iriadu, I mean that's right on the storm wall, and that's why in the insider shorts it's at least the base where the Adrens come from, and so to see that in play. Maybe just thinking, and again, hopefully they don't think about this too much, but Wilhuff being such a hardened Imperial. I don't know. Maybe this is, of course, generations before, but there are all these traditions. We know from the Tarkin novel that these traditions by James Luceno of going out and hunting and almost kind of these brutal. I wonder if that originates from this to some extent, if they're going to build that in again, because you can't help but think, if you're going to the Tarkins, you're going to Iriadu, this is his family history. How does he get to be where he is? Mm-hmm. One of those things, similar kind of what they've done with Santa Staros, maybe to
good call.
A lot smaller potatoes.
I love that. It really reminds me of House of the Dragons. Are you watching that right now?
Yes, perfect show.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. And like this week we've seen the Freys of the twins.
Yeah.
And we're seeing the Starks, of course. We're seeing the ancestors of these other characters that we know so well. And we're getting the same effect with the High Republic, the Santekas, the Staros, the Tarkins. Now it's great seeing these lineages that trace back hundreds of years, and we get to see I get to see that their mentality is like and where they end up later on in the current timeline. So love that. I also really love the moment, I forget the Jedi Master's name that's on the planet of the one where the Grands live and the Dougs live in Malastare, yes. Yeah. I can know the species, but I don't know the name of the damn planet for some reason. But there is a nice heart-to-heart talk between Lula and that Jedi Master, and the idea of just opening up and just accepting you for who you are. And again, this is that young reader novel-esque, audience range here, but we're diving into the good stuff here with these younger characters, acceptance in oneself, really good messages to give to the young people out there in the world. But there's plenty of zaniness and humor along the way with the rest of the book here. So yeah, I liked it a lot, and I guess this one's going to be going on quite a bit further than the High Republic, from what I can tell. I don't think there's any end in sight. So it's good to know we're going to get a good long ongoing comic, at least until May of 2025, maybe. And that's the last, I think, edition in the Star Wars era right here for now.
It makes sense. I mean, this is issue 7, and it's starting a new arc. I mean, that's the traditional Marvel thing of the 6-issue arc. That High Republic hasn't really felt need to fit with because it's its own thing. But yeah, that this is issue 7 of presumably 12 or presumably more. Who knows? That being said, the Marvel comic has a whole honking audio drama to finish that one off. So that's that. But Yeah, I mean, definitely. You come back to the age audience for this one. Yeah, it's a good parallel to the young reader novels that also have a lot for older readers to sink our teeth into to really appreciate, even if it's for a younger audience. Although again, this audience is aging up, which is why they're building in another younger audience right behind it as part of it. I think you got to have some people who relate to Zint reading this comic a little bit. But also even in that to that point, the reason there's so many things going on, kind of zany, kind of all over the place, and not in a bad way, just darting from back to and fro, different characters. Probably the attention span of kids these age. I don't know, kids these days. I don't know about that, but yeah, maybe that's something about it. But good to yeah get them while they're young with the message of accept yourself and find the people, find the grown-ups who will accept you and want you to be the full expression of who you are, and the ones that can say, even if that doesn't go with what we know, what the rest of the order knows is what how they're supposed to be and do. A Jedi isn't supposed to leave and get married. uh, okay, the Lula is free to do that. No, she isn't marrying a senator, so there's that. Uh, she isn't a master, so that's the thing. I mean, that's the thing. She was a Padawan still, right? Or yes, she was a knight. No, she was a Padawan. So they're already always freer to do that. But yeah, to see that really accepted, really important message. So we'll see. And they're still there. They're still in. I mean, they're basically RDC now, Lula and Zine,
Yep.
effectively. And as we see in High Republic, as opposed to say the Acolyte, the relationship between the Jedi and the RDC, the relationship between the Jedi and civilians is a lot, by definition, built in a lot more congenial and collaborative and trusting, and so that also makes it easier for Lula to jump over. Like, well, I mean, the thing we see, I finally got into in the battle for Naboo, in Temptation of the Force. They really are depending. The thing I thought they would do is depend on RDC folks. If there's an ambulance there, Jedi can back off, RDC can go in and take care of it, and it's not a problem. So, yeah, similar thing here, similar story here. Too bad things all go wrong eventually, as we that Senator Vancourt or Rancourt, or his name is, having those weird views. Anyway, and any last thoughts on High Republic Adventures number 7?
Nope.
All right, let's move right along. This is a great one. This was a doozy. Ongoing number 48, written by Charles Soule, art by Jethro Morales, colored by Rochelle Rosenberg, cover by Steven Segovia and Rain Barreto, set 100 and something years after the Acolyte. 120 something years after it. Anyway, set mere months or weeks before Return of the Jedi, is more importantly. Last chance for Solo. Leia Organa has put the galaxy's freedom before all else, including her lost love, Han Solo. The growing threat of the second Death Star looming over the Rebel Alliance, should she try to save him while she still can? This one was great. Chris, I'll throw it over to you. What thoughts and feels do you have on this one?
Oh, this is great. This answered a question I never knew I had, which was like, what was the urgency of getting Han Solo before they had this huge important attack on the Death Star? And it's all this heartfelt conversation that takes place between Luke and Leia, and the idea that, hey, I don't know if we'll ever get another shot. God forbid we get killed in the Death Star. Han will be trapped there forever. So I liked how we get that sprinkled in, because I know for a lot of people, like in Return of the Jedi, watching that movie, they're like, where the hell is this Jabba stuff at? Like, what is this so important we have to have in this movie? Compared to like the climactic end with Luke and Vader and Emperor, like how does that even weigh up? This is the reason why. So I like how we're getting that little cool canon tidbit. But it was cool to see that the different artistic renditions of the flashbacks, or the nightmares, I should say, of Leia as a kid and pulling the lever and all these like really evocative images, and then the idea of Commander Zara, who I actually think about every once in a while when I'm reading these comics. I'm like, oh, those were the good old days when we had this brilliant protege of Tarkin just
Mhm.
really out there, just crushing the rebellion. Like, where is she? Like, she can't surely be dead. I mean, they wanted us to think she was dead, but then she goes and pulls, and this is a big deep cut for it, an Agent Terex, and sides with a bunch of
Yes.
scum and villainy. And I'm like, oh wait, the same writer that did that story is doing this story, so everything rhymes. It's like
Oh,
George
Charles.
Lucas says, poetry it rhymes. We got another ex-imperial person that's gonna lead a criminal syndicate essentially.
Mhm.
But very devious stuff, very dark stuff.
Yeah.
Baiting somebody with a dead person that's being basically simulated to be alive, and then it ties back into the comics I know you want to talk about, which are the miniseries of Leia.
Yeah.
And I even think that they might be tying into storylines that we were supposed to get out of that Ragtag game by Amy Hennig and Visceral Studios, which was supposed to be about this guy that was going to go and help out the Alderaans on the run there. So I think we might even be getting a little bit of material maybe that could have been in that game in this book. So yeah, a lot happened in here. Started off pretty slow, but towards the end, it was good. And I liked to see that the two characters on the cover were actually prominently in the book.
Luke is actually in this book. That's true.
And I have something to say about that, but I'll let you go forward.
Yeah, well, to say Luke is actually in this book. I was at my shop being like, yeah, Luke is not in this book probably. And yeah, I think I know what you're gonna say when we get to it later on. But yeah, and he has a really wonderful way of helping Leia see herself and accept herself. There's that theme again. Yeah, that he's one of the lucky few who she doesn't have to be a symbol in front of.
Yeah,
That thought
like
too.
that.
And so for her to go get Han, that's good enough reason for him, even if it may not necessarily be good enough for the Alliance as a whole. It's funny. I never, maybe because I grew up with this film, I never thought of that as a problem that they delay it. I always thought, oh yeah, they got to go rescue Han. Of course they got to rescue Han.
Yep.
But I guess people like gripes. Potatoes got to potate, as my brother says. Potatoes gonna tate. Yeah, and yeah, to bring in, this is go back to mostly, especially Mark Waid's 2015 comic that we know in issue number 50 is going to have a major plot line. A little bit of a, like you mentioned, with that kind of archivist scientist historian person in the back of the tank, like Luminara in Rebels. How and Ezra Zero, maybe she's alive. No, it's bait. Yeah, you mentioned. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. Agent Terex from the Poe Dameron comic, of course, by Charles Soule. Having this vendetta against Poe, and then here's Zara, of course, having a vendetta against Leia. Of course, Terex seems to be more with the First Order. Yeah, Zara seems more independent. I guess we don't know quite yet, but
I can't wait to learn more.
Yeah, that would be great. And then of course Yvonne Verlaine. Finally, so bringing all these things back, like Yvonne is I mean that short run from 2015, that was really great. I'm going to read it again, hopefully before issue 50 comes out, maybe even this weekend. We'll see. And yeah, Yvonne being she's part of Rogue Squadron. She or she's she's involved. She's a pilot in the Rebel Alliance, but she's basically also the viceroy of Alderaan when Leia's too busy with the Alliance, so she's actually running things. So she's also
what, really?
A little bit, or at least no, I guess not in this case. Yeah, right. She's the point of contact with the fleet, survivor fleet. But I think from what I recall in 2015 for the 2015 comic, just after A New Hope, just after Alderaan is destroyed. That comic is about Leia and Yvonne gathering all the remnants of Alderaan. Some of them are on Naboo, some of them are elsewhere, in this fleet to come together and actually have some new Alderaan, like just the people, because it's the people. Another reference to Asgard in the MCU, where it currently is in the MCU. how Asgard's destroyed. So there's new Asgard in Norway, or and wherever they are, and so really looking forward to this sense of the Alderaanian people that we don't really think of. Also, to see this really pick up, and the way Charles can just sit and think about a character, kind of the way Ryan Johnson, for example, sits and thinks about a character. Yeah, of course she'd be haunted by that moment on the Death Star. I'm sure
Mhm.
she's, we haven't seen it because she's probably most of the time able to to fight and push back and say, no, this wasn't my fault. Like what Luke has to say, this wasn't my fault. Uh, I was forced into it. Nothing I would have said mattered. Nothing I could say would have mattered. Would have happened anyway because the Empire is that brutal. But it takes work. It takes effort. We all, in our struggles with mental health and challenges like that, it takes effort, and we don't always have the energy to push against the demons. And for Luke to step in, before even knowing that, their blood connection, there's already the family connection there for Luke to step in and say, uh, you know, you well, you can take it. You can do this. You're not alone. Go and go on this mission to actually. I mean, that's another thing is the way to work out her stress and anxiety about the situation, about her memory on the Death Star. That's just it, is to be constructive and to reconstitute the people and take that effort to do that. Is it to the extent that it's a trap? I mean, we have the solicits for number 50, and so we know that they're likely going to go and be able to find them and hope, maybe, I don't know, it's probably too risky for them to join the alliance formally and be part of the action at Endor. But maybe not. Maybe they do, or maybe there's something in the New Republic later on, a year later, when it is safe for them to be in public and join. Um, Either way, she's working out and undoing little bit by bit what the Empire did to her family. It's one last thing, it's Claudia's lost, not lost stars, bloodline, right?
Mm.
How yes, she has, at that point, of course, she knows her bloodline from Anakin, from Vader. She has that strain of not so much strain, a strain of evil in her, tempted to think that, but she also really holds on to Bail, really holds on to the man who raised her as a father and instilled in her all these values of justice and respect and compassion and uh, working for the good of the galaxy. She's starting to do that now, and so the legacy through Leia in this way, and we need more stories about this, right? We see Leia as, we call her princess, but Leia as rebel leader in general,
Yep.
and she says all these titles. Um, the Organa legacy, the Alderaanian legacy, can live on in her too, and it would be good. And I'm glad we got this story. I'm glad we're going to get the story in issue number 50. I'm glad we got it in 20 with Mark Waid's comic in 2015. We should. There's more about the legacy of Alderaan, because that has something to say, maybe even in the New Republic, and how that the restoration of a republic and restoration of democracy in the galaxy, Alderaan still has something to say about that, and that's because Leia has something to say about that. And so, for stories that really lean into that, lean into her origins, into who she is and where she comes from. Yeah, again, all the other labels, all the other commitments she has. Uh, as a guy in rural Alberta once told me, everyone's from somewhere, and Leia is from Alderaan. Do you have any further thoughts on this one?
Yeah, the whole idea about Luke being in two places at once. Now I know it's not actually happening, but like this whole thing happened with Vader back in the Dark Droid saga, and I'm just like, oh, here we go again. That's why one negative. It's like, all right, we got Luke, and now he's in two places at once. Okay.
Yeah. We'll get to that.
It's a nitpick, but
for next week's comics. Yeah, it's again, it's a Marvel thing, a little bit. We'll see how they sort that one out if they bother to. You never know. Something they wouldn't
Another
necessarily
thing.
do. Yes, you're good.
I want to see Commander Zara redeemed. I want to see her fighting for the rebels against the second Death Star in this miraculous turn of events where she was so like brought down by the destruction of the Death Star, kind of like on her watch a little bit.
Hmm.
So to see her come like full circle 180, almost like
Yeah.
180, and be like, I'm actually going to fight against my people and against tyranny. I think that would be really neat. I don't
Yeah.
know.
It'd be interesting to
Our
see how
stretch
they.
because we have one issue for that that basically
Yeah.
happening, but
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see how they, if they go that direction. Yeah, I don't think it'll take time, but it'd be an interesting twist. I'll give you that. Yeah, to
yeah, I want to
see.
see her more either that or make her a villain for like if they go
Yeah.
in post Return of the Jedi, make her like a villain because that'd be interesting. It wouldn't be the Empire, it'd be this other faction that's led by an ex-Imperial, and that'd be
Yeah.
kind of neat.
Which I mean, we know, especially after Jakku. I mean, there's a whole Disney Plus series on kind of focusing on this a little bit, called The Mandalorian. Yeah, all these criminal syndicates, all the other folks in the ascendancy after the Empire, because the New
Mm-hmm.
Republic isn't quite capable of policing everything, can't handle everything. But um, yeah, that'll be interesting to see what happens with Zara. Because yeah, I agree, she was a great character, really, and the whole arc, the whole everything that happened, really, yeah, really well written, well done. So good to see that come back. I mean, it could be the usual, the normal route where she gets consumed by it. Like Bylert was almost consumed by both his cyborgness and his desire for revenge. Um, and then you have Afra. What's her name? Oh goodness, Magnus Holven, who goes the other direction, right? Magnus Holven, who goes the other direction. Um, so, and I'm just thinking the image of the cyborg. Of course, there's this guy named Vader. We know where he goes, but the image of the cyborg can go in different directions. They can play with that as an enhancement, as like Grievous, all these other characters. It can go in different directions, and yeah, we have Bylert and we have Magna as examples of actually them not letting that be a limit to their character, but be a source of strength to them. So, uh, all right. Before we move on, I just want to mention some Star Wars adjacents. Charles Soule isn't done. I mean, the series with Scott Snyder, Undiscovered Country, that is coming to a quick end. Not quick. It's on its way, heading towards the end. Their issue number 30 came out today as well. Please do check that out. Interesting run. Kind of went, not too sure. Kind of took a bit of a detour, but hurling towards pretty strong finish, I think. So check that one out. And that's all the comic book talk we have. Well, I'll get to um, what's coming up next week. But Chris, you begged me for it. You begged me for it. So we're doing it. Apparently, there was a Space Wizard show that came out last night.
Mm-hmm.
Finished last night.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say what I want to say tonight, because definitely, of course, Joel and I are gonna talk about it on Monday.
For like 2 hours, right?
And
You
then
guys are
for
talking
2 hours straight, we got
long.
a guest, and then we have another guest
Oh,
the next
wow.
week, talking about the whole series, the whole season. I will say it was an interesting exercise watching a show that I had predicted a lot of, and I'm curious to think about. I'm thinking about this show, for all its kind of billing as a mystery. It wasn't really a mystery. It was more a character study, and a lot of the things that we kind of thought about had been pretty. I mean, unless because I don't think I'm that smart. I don't know if I'm that smart. But, a lot of things that ended up happening in this episode, that I thought would happen in this episode, kind of happened. I thought, I at least thought Osha would kill Soul. I thought, we knew she had to, like we were saying, she had to leave and join Chimere. So yeah, it is overall, really exciting episode, really well done. I do wonder if it is a little over reliant on action. I don't quite understand why Osha and May are fighting in their room. Maybe just working out old frustrations, but Yeah. So, well, Joel and friends will have a more structured conversation about that on
Okay.
Monday. I mean, I know you'll have a more longer, more structured conversation about that on Sunday or Friday, whenever we
Friday this week,
record.
yeah.
But I know you're chopping a bit to chat about it. So, I mean, what are you up to? What are you feeling 24 hours later?
I've enjoyed it, but I'm not thinking about it as much as other Star Wars finales.
Interesting.
I'm not buzzing as much as I was with episode 5. I still think this is next episode 5. This is a highlight for me of the season.
Mhm.
I think Leslie Headland had a lot of weight on her shoulders with this one, as the internet could tell you. There's
Yeah.
how are they gonna wrap this all up? But I think for the most part, she did a really good and admirable job of doing it. I think even adding more gravitas to the story right at the end.
Yeah.
The drama was dialed up to 11. I gotta say, when I'm watching Chimera, I'm watching Soul fight. There was meaning behind it. There was
Mhm.
some weight behind it, and the suspense was killing me. I was like, "Oh my gosh, do not kill Chimera!" It's just in the back of my head, I was like, "He cannot die. He cannot die. Come on, Chimera, pull through. Come on, come on." And even the emotional moments of like May and Osha, and say what you will about, yeah, I agree with a lot of other people. Like, I feel like the twins, something about their characterizations or something, just I didn't care about them as much as, let's say, Cassian Andor or
Mhm.
Rey or Kylo Ren or Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like these big character, tentpole characters, the story was centered around them, and I feel like the series overall just did nail that aspect of the
Mhm.
story. But then you have, just amazing choreography, like something straight out of like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon,
Yes.
and it's just incredible fight scenes. And I like the setting of Brendok and doing a good job of like, why do we spend so much time in this
Yeah.
flashback? Oh, we're going here for the finale. Now it lends more insight and credence to like this is a more impactful battle because they are fighting on the origins of this entire storyline happening
Mhm.
here. Like all these like callbacks, like, oh, this is the bridge. This was like the shaft that they snuck in with the slicing by Kalnaka. Like all these great little things like,
Yeah.
oh, this is the bridge. Like this is a lot of cool the walkway, I mean, where they're fighting with the sabers, like a lot of cool stuff like that. And a lot of us were scratching our head up at that point, like, why do they keep showing flashbacks? They were important.
Mhm.
Um, and the politics stuff was really welcomed. I feel
Yes.
like I've been asking for more of that, and it was great to see like Senate stuff going on, and just the darkness, seeing somebody just being choked, the life snuffed out of them in front of your eyes, and
Mhm.
for Nestra and the connection. There's so much to get into. I love it.
Yeah.
I really did like it a lot.
So, first to say, yeah, I mean they're fighting over those other locations. I mean, in Osha and May's soul and psyche, these childhood memories in this intensely painful moment in their childhoods that that's really where the battleground is, right? It's in their for their
Yeah,
soul,
I
the
like
battle
that.
for their soul. Um, because this is a comics podcast, we got to give a bit of a lore dump. Shout out to the lore dump. So yes, of course, Crystal Bleeding, first mentioned
Yeah,
in Southern Ontario, E.K. Johnson's Ahsoka novel. First mentioned, first seen in a comic book in another of Charles's comic books, my favorite comic book of all time. Here is Vader bleeding his crystal, and of course to bring that back, just like how Osha bleeding Soul's crystal
mm,
um, is a confrontation with her past and a rejection of her past, right? In her case, she's seeing it literally. She's seeing Soul be right in front of her. She's seeing May right there. Nay, I mean, she wants to hold on to, but she's easily said, okay, you got to wipe her memory in order to keep her safe from the Jedi, from those evil Jedi. Um, from her point of view and from Anakin's point of view, the Jedi are evil, right? And so she has to straight up in different ways reject her mentor who trained her and saved her effectively, and May who her sister. Of course, this is the money shot. all these moments here. Of course, the vision. So I mean, for Anakin, for Vader, it is this vision of if it's here, wrong direction. It's been a while since I read it. No, it's wrong way. Yeah, this vision of Obi-Wan, and he offers him forgiveness, and and of course, Vader has to reject it, and Vader rejects forgiveness, rejects his master, who he of course ends up striking down to become more powerful than he can imagine, and then of course here's also the money shot. So um, there you go. I took some photos of this. This is of course Charles Soule's 2017 issue number 5. Giuseppe Camuncoli, tip your hat off to, and yeah, let's see, let's get the credits up properly here. Giuseppe Camuncoli, Cam Smith, inks by Cam Smith, and decolors by David Curiel. So yeah, one of the great all time moments in Star Wars comics, I'd say, and yeah, great to see that. Yeah, we see that in Jedi Survivor, of course. We see that in another lead character. To see that in a lead character in Elsha. Yeah, really. Yeah, I mean, and it's subtle. I like how in this case it was she's just holding the saber.
Yes.
She ignites it and just right there.
Yep.
But yeah,
Yep.
there we
see
go. Leslie
Jedi
dialed in.
Survivor.
Yeah.
With Dagan Gera.
Yeah.
All right. So that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
I like how there are different versions of it. I like, Vader using the Force on the crystal itself.
Mm-hmm.
But then we have this instance of her just straight up, like, it's inside the hilt. She doesn't even take the hilt apart, and it just happens. And the way it's done is so cool. Like, I love the effect of it, just like pulsating red, and then just like the blue goes away slowly but surely as it reaches the tip there. It was a really cool moment. I actually made a video on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/StarRaptor. Check it out. I have a whole lore dump of basically all what that whole thing is, what it's about.
Yeah. So
couldn't resist on that.
Hey, I mean, again, it's in comics. It's in a novel. It's a YA novel. Yeah, give it a look. In a video game, so it's all up your alley. So that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Yes, and Darth Plagueis. I mean, come on, it got confirmed
Yeah.
today. I know you were on the fence about it.
I know,
but
I was on the fence. But...
yeah, it definitely was, like the music, everything, and it's like,
oh yeah, Leslie said
that character model. The like.
Where's the music from? What's that music from? What do you mean? Oh, like
is
from the opera.
Is that the opera music?
Oh,
like
maybe.
He's talking about the like it's like that really like
yeah. I'll have to give it a look again.
Gregorian chant kind of thing. Yeah. But yeah, the implications for that are huge. The implications for that are gigantic because we don't actually. I don't. Chimera. I'm pretty sure he's not really a Sith. Like he's not the same Sith lineage as was passed down by Darth Bane, Power of Two. So he is his own new Sith, and now he has his own acolyte who are holding hands, mind you. So it's like very much like that Reylo kind of energy. If that were ever to happen, it's actually happening in this case, which is exciting in its own right because I got to see where that goes. But I got to see how the story finishes. I said this online in a forum of some degree. It's like, yeah, I want the story to continue because this is a huge hanging thread now. It's like you have these two new Sith that are still out there with Plagueis knowing about him. Like, what happens with that story? Like, how does that resolve? Like, I'm so curious to see how the true line of the Sith interact with these Sith pretenders or whatever they call themselves now with Chimera and Osha there.
So it's interesting. So first off, yeah, definitely Reylo, like I was saying about episode 5, or is episode 5? No, episode 6. The story Reylo's wish they got. It's gonna show. Oh, you don't really want that story, guys. Come on, season 2 is gonna show that. But also a little bit of Attack of the Clones vibes at the end with the wedding, looking out over the sea there. Kind of holding hands. Of course, holding hands around a red lightsaber, but it's a different story. I never got the impression that Chimera is acting independently of Plagueis. I thought Chimera was doing his thing under Plagueis's watch.
Oh.
And I mean, that's the thing is the apprentice can take an acolyte and that's just how it is. The apprentice can't. One of the ways the apprentice can defeat the master is by training and acolyting them together
True.
and overtaking the master, and that's when Chimere's true colors as a Sith would be revealed. I don't know. Again, the implications for that is where's Palpatine in this? Then how old are Immune? Um, you know, why? Yeah, how old are Immune? Why is Plagueis already that old? What can we think of Tenebris? Where is he? Of course, it's a Legends novel, so those questions aren't entirely important.
Oh,
Really.
I have an
But,
idea about Tenebris.
yeah, maybe you read.
I really should have looked up the character's name of the guy, David. What is his last name? The actor David Harewood or
Oh
something?
yeah, Harold. Yeah, so Senator
Uh,
Raincourt.
what is his name?
Senator Raincourt, is that his name?
Raincourt. Okay, so he was talking an awful lot about the Jedi in a very Sithy way, and I was like,
Yes.
this guy reminds me like I thought he would be a Sith revealed at the end,
Mm-hmm.
maybe the Master of Plagueis or something, because he could have been like a Tenebris, because it just seemed like it was Palpatine all over again, acting as like a figure in the Senate to like get closer to the Jedi to pull some strings.
I see, maybe, especially since turns out Chimera was a Sith. That if someone's talking that on the nose about very Sith-like perspectives, but the fact that he's talking that on the nose about Sith-like perspectives suggests that he isn't. Suggests that he's just has this extreme. This at this point is an extreme view. That he's literally the only senator who dislikes the Jedi, who believes they have too much power. Everyone else is all, the Jedi are great. Let's keep working with them. We all trust them. That was a fascinating thing because there's this distillation, Tiatun in The Rising Storm. He's all, the Jedi are fine. The Jedi are great. It's just that local systems also need to have more experience and authority in handling local disputes, or else they'll just lose the ability to have planetary independence and lose the ability to the experience and lose the touch, and just know their worlds better, so they're better equipped to handle local issues. 100 years later, the Jedi have this great overreach and ACAB and let's kind of really curtail their power. Of course, that then grows 100 years later to the Jedi are traitors and they should all be wiped out. So, that was definitely an interesting, important moment in this show to have that wider context. Is he a Sith? He could be influenced by the Sith. I'll say that could be possible. I don't know. Any further thoughts before we?
No, I'm gonna save it for Friday. Come back to both of our YouTube channels here, and we'll have a lot more to say. But that's just a little tease.
Yeah, it's a good tease. Speaking of which YouTube channels, stories, or other podcasts, Joel has interesting one that Chimer got kicked out by Plagueis, and Chimer doesn't know Plagueis is there. Also possible. I mean, Plagueis could mask himself in the Force, and Chimer can't tell. I don't know. It seems more likely. I don't know. It seems more likely that, at least in the article that confirmed that was Plagueis, the writer kind of suggests that Chimer is the one hiding stuff from Osha and hiding Plagueis from Osha. So that's why my mind is going there. But that might not be accurate. It might be speculation. So there you go. Okay, yeah, we'll definitely stay tuned. Underworld transmissions on Friday, Iron Cannon on Monday, Iron Cannon the next Monday. Have lots to talk about with this. We'll pick up those plugs at the end. There is a comic book next week coming out. It is not this series, not this run, the one after it with Master Puck, Greg Pak Star Theater, number 48 of 50. That's coming out next week, and also a little comic book convention.
Oh yeah,
taking place in this little town called San Diego. and that's also next weekend. I won't be there, Chris. You will be there. First off, your Theater 48. What are you looking forward to in that one?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Luke Skywalker flirting with the dark side, because I think that's we're gonna figure out how he learns how to do the Force choke on the Gamorreans there. A lot of the fans over the years be like, where did he learn that? How is he tapping on the dark side? I think this is our story for that. So should be good stuff there with learning a little bit more from Sabe, who knew his mother very well.
Yeah, and of course we just saw someone learn to do a Force choke last night, so that like kind of timely. We'll see. Yeah, I'm anything with Sabe. I'm curious about. I'm interested in part because of the connection with Padme, but also throughout this run, she's been such an interesting character and well developed character in her own right. In this and in Queen's Hope by E.K. Johnson also. So, where is she leaning? Where's she going? What's she doing with this? Some interesting open questions. What's her place? Again, is Luke going to be in two places at once? Again, I don't know. We'll see how they sort that out. And then, San Diego Comic-Con.
Oh, yeah.
Some important publishing panels.
Big deal
Marvel
this year.
panels. You have some thoughts on San Diego. You're going to be there. Tell us about being there and what are your thoughts on?
Yeah. So there's going to be a Hasbro panel on Friday, but the big one will be Thursday, and that'll be from 4:15 to 5:15 Pacific time there. And that's in Ballroom 20, and I'll get back to that in a moment because I'm going to read the exact word-for-word description of the panel. As it says, from the High Republic to the Age of Rebellion, join storytellers of all kinds in this epic celebration of creativity across the Star Wars galaxy, with exciting reveals from upcoming books, comics, and games moderated by Patton Oswalt. This panel will bring together writers, artists, and actors from across the Star Wars galaxy, including the voice cast behind the upcoming open-world scoundrel adventure, Star Wars Outlaws, including Humberly Gonzalez, who plays Kay Vess, Jay Rincon, who plays the droid ND5, and legendary Star Wars voice actor D. Bradley Baker, who plays Nix, also Star Wars Rebels, Star Wars The Clone Wars, Bad Batch. Attendees can also expect a sneak peek at what is next for upcoming Star Wars books and comics from Justina Ireland, who wrote Defy the Storm, Mission to Disaster, Tessa Gren, who wrote Temptation of the Force, and Kevan Scott, who writes basically half the stuff under the sun when it comes to Star Wars.
Sure.
That is what's coming up. So this is huge. First and foremost, the idea that this is not even a publishing panel anymore. This is just stories from across the galaxy far, far away. I myself am in my glory because it's my first San Diego Comic-Con. In fact, that we're folding in all of canon into one freaking epic panel. Man, I wish I could transport you somehow in a teleporter because
I'm telling you,
I feel like this is going to be epic.
Yeah.
This is going to be epic, man. I'm so pumped because this is what I've been waiting for. I mean, over the years, Celebration has a panel for a video game. They have a panel for the books and the comics. And then this. And then the fact that I don't even know if I've ever had a celebrity on as a moderator. I'm so used to seeing Michael Suglane, who does a great job every time. But, like, to get Patton Oswalt, who does, like, the filibuster and that one series that I always see online about Boba Fett and the Marvel characters, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a good time. This is
Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., right?
Yes, that guy. Yeah. I did watch that. This is just going to be great. I mean, and the fact of the matter is even Michael Suglane came out and he said, oh, we have an upgrade for the thing this year. No crap, man, because I looked up Ballroom 20. That is like the second next to Hall H, which is like the world-renowned panel room where Force Awakens was in, and the MCU and DC stuff is always like, this is in Ballroom 20, which is the next biggest room. It's got over 4,000 seats. 4,000 seats. They thought that this panel would be big enough that they would have to have a stage to fit 4,000 freaking people to talk about video games, comics, and books for an hour.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. And I'm going ahead to do some speculation here because I looked at the panel schedule. There's nothing that comes out after this panel at all for the rest of the day. Like they can take as long as they want. So even if it says 4:15 to 5:15, I know from experience with a lot of these bigger panels, they can go over. Maybe they'll have some secret stuff. So like I'm analyzing this way too much because I'm super excited for it, because you're looking at this list. They have 3 authors, just 3 authors. Like And those 3 authors are only responsible right now for being involved with the High Republic.
Mhm.
Now, you and me went to New York Comic Con last year, and they did a complete cast switch at one point. They brought all the authors down and brought a whole new wave of authors on stage at that point.
Except for Charles, who stood up and then sat back down. But
so I am fully expecting them to do like okay, maybe like 20 minutes on the Outlaws game, maybe 20 minutes on the High Republic, and be like, all right, we have big news to talk about with comics, and then bring on like every author, writer for what's happening next. Because if you go back in time to the announcement of the issue number 50s, they said, oh, stay tuned in the next couple weeks. We will tell you what's coming. This has got to be it, right? This has got to be like all lights are shining on stage here on Thursday, July 25th at 4:15. What better way to announce the next slate than to have a celebrity moderator and everybody else involved? 4,000 plus people in a room talking about freaking Star Wars comics. So I am speculating irresponsibly, perhaps, but I feel like it's got to happen. It should happen at least.
You know, it is called San Diego Comic Con.
Yeah.
It is the origins of comic book fandom in the world, the epicenter. I mean, of course, New York City is the epicenter, but this con is. I'm such a party pooper. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to be such a party pooper. My gut is telling me, so it's possible. It's certainly possible that they'll trot out a whole bunch of new authors that we don't know about. I do wonder if the attention is mainly for Outlaws, because video games are just that much bigger and that much more important, generally speaking. And there's no E3 anymore. Yeah. Again, for your sake, I hope I'm wrong. I hope that's true. Patton Oswalt. Now, counter argument, Matthew. Patton Oswalt is a comic book guy. He reads comics. He writes comics.
Oh wow! Okay.
He knows comics, so he might be the right guy for this. That's probably true. And so I guess I'm kind of selfish. We're like, oh no, tell me in New York. Tell me in New York in October.
My only thing with that is it'll be too late for New York. By then we would know the news. If this thing is supposed to be out by December, they said this year the comics the solicits will be out for October, like literally the week of Comic-Con probably.
Okay,
they might hold them.
Yeah.
So I feel like this has got to be it. They said weeks. Like, what are you going to just wait for a week after Comic-Con and be like, oh yeah, that's going to be such a waste. You guys could have showed it to a full audience of cool fans going nuts.
Actually, here's what I'm thinking. And I'm arguing myself into this. What I was thinking, draw folks from the video game for the video game, as in make that the big draw, because more people probably want to go.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, again, I don't know who goes to San Diego Comic Con. Does everybody go? Everyone goes to San Diego. I haven't been yet, but we know the video games are the most popular thing. They go and then they're given this. They're presented this great comic book news, and they get all excited for that too.
Yeah,
that I can see them doing that, and so maybe it just now I'm bummed that I'm not going, because I definitely would want to be there. I'll follow the live tweets.
I'm gonna have to get in line like incredibly early, because this is one of those situations, kind of like Hall H.
Yeah.
And except not as crazy, where apparently they don't clear the room between each panel.
Right.
And they have a panel for like a new Prime show, a new Peacock horror series, which I can't imagine those are going to draw many people into that room, because they're brand new series and nobody knows about them. So I'll probably have to get into the room at like 2:00 and just chill there, just to make sure I have a seat, because I'm not going to freaking miss that going all the way to California. I'll get in line at like 8 a.m. if I need to get in that room, whatever it takes. So
yeah. I mean, for Fan Expo and for Celebration, I've been known to wait in line a good 2-3 hours for the big ones. So just bring some reading material, read some comic books. Hey, but
maybe I could pick up Darth Vader number 48 while I'm there.
Yeah, pick up. Do you have the Mark Waid Leia from 2015?
I do.
Yeah, let me give that a read.
Also, I told you this even before I found out about this news about the panel. I looked on the map of Comic-Con. Star Wars has probably the biggest real estate of anything there at their booth. Now, I've been told after the fact that, Star Wars has his booth there every year. But even looking at that thing, it's like 2 actual booths combined that are both big in their own right.
Mhm.
So I expect that, maybe you'll be able to play Outlaws there. I know that there's content creators like Star Wars Explained and Star Wars Battlefront updates and a whole bunch of every possible industry video game guy went to LA last week to play the game.
Yeah.
So that means the game's ready. Just ship all those stations that the people are playing those games on in Anaheim. Ship them over to San Diego Comic-Con. Let people wait all day in line if they have to, like me, to play the damn game. So I'm hoping that, and maybe they'll have like the Acolyte costumes, because I see from Dominic every year, he's always posting pictures of like the usual, they have the costumes for whatever series or movie came out that year. So, that'd be cool to see. But yeah, there's a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, it'll be fun. And if you're right about this panel, Star Wars comics making a big splash. I guess Star Wars comics usually make a bit of a splash.
But if they say, "Oh, this is post Rise of Skywalker," this is the place to do it. You have this many people in a room.
There's no celebration.
Oh man, that could be one of the biggest moments. That could be one of the biggest moments for Comic-Con in general. If they were like, "Oh, I can see that on some websites, like, oh, Star Wars announces post Rise Skywalker comics," and then people go like, give them prequel comics. I'll be happy whatever they announce. If they announce anything, just do it then.
I'm still holding out for Phantom Menace era, but
yeah.
Well, I'll be excited for whatever happens. I'll be following. I'm sure people will live tweet it. I wish they streamed them.
They should.
But
they should stream
I'm sure it's not like they'll hide that news. We'll find out. So yeah, looking forward to hearing the news, whatever it is. Looking forward vicariously to you and Dom for enjoying that panel.
Well, if it's good enough, maybe in a couple of years we'll both go again.
Yeah, there we go. Definitely go to New York. Definitely going to.
I'm definitely going there. It's only an hour from me right now, so there's no excuse for me not to go.
There we go. So here's the nice thing. I'm going to console myself here. So they announced it in July. They announced this in July.
Yep.
October, they give us more details. Some more.
Oh yeah. I think they. Oh well, if it's as big as news, it will be. They're going to be trotting these writers all over the place to talk about it.
Yeah.
So I think they'll show us like covers. They'll show us interiors. They'll give us like more information on the storylines, where it's going, how it connects. So I fully expect just like a tease, if anything, when it comes to this stuff, saying what it is, where it is, and then come back to New York Comic Con, where we'll talk more about it.
Yeah. Just a thought, this is almost as big of a deal as 2015 with the Mark Waid, but the Jason Aaron and the Kieran Gillen, right? So again, the 10 years, 2025. Coming full circle. What's next? We will find out. But for now, let's get back to the plugs. You can follow us on Twitter. First of all, great episode. We hit to an hour, crammed a whole bunch of stuff in there. Way to be. Chris, where can they find you on the internet?
Yeah, you can find me, follow all my doings in San Diego. I'll be flying in on Sunday to LA for a few days. So you can follow me on Twitter. I'll be posting some stuff there, but I'm going to mainly have a lot of the content revolving on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/StarRaptor. Like I said, I just put up a little informational video about bleeding kyber crystals and how that affected, or how that linked to other bits of canon from video games, books, and comics, and all the like. So check that out. I have a couple other Acolyte companion videos I've done over the last couple weeks, so appreciate that. Again, that's youtube.com/StarRaptor, and that's twitter.com/StarRaptor. And I will be off the next 2 or 3 weeks from here. Yeah. So I will be out gallivanting around. But
gallivanting around the galaxy.
He'll hold down the fort as I'm away collecting some bounties. So,
I think next week there's only Vader, and then the news will not have hit yet. So, I'm probably gonna take next week off myself, and then the week after, probably pick up both Vader and Darth Maul, Black, White, and Red, and give my thoughts on the news if there's news, and see what else I do. We'll definitely keep you posted on Twitter at IonCannonPod, EYEONCANONPOD. Of course, we're also on Instagram and Threads, but mainly Twitter. there it is. Of course, the Star Wars Underworld Facebook page at the SWU and in the Star Wars Underworld Discord server. Check that out as well, is where you can find out what we're up to, what we're doing, what's happening. But for now, please do go pick up Vader number 2048. Pick that up, give it a read, pick up if you find Vader 2017 number 5 on digital or wherever you can get your comic.
Yeah.
It's a great run. Still my favorite comic book of all time is the Charles Soule Darth Vader run. So pick that one up. But pick up Darth Vader number 48. If you're at San Diego, give Chris a wave. Come over, say hi. I'm guessing that's fine.
Yep.
He doesn't bite, so let him know. And let him know, and come over and say hi to Dom too. He'll be there. And just chat and say, hey, we love the tractor beam. We love, and again, we also like Star Wars Underworld. That's fine. And of course, Outer Rim Transmissions. We love that one too. So let us know, show us love if you want. Let us know what you thought about tonight's episode. What you think of High Adventures or Ongoing number 48. Pick that. Yeah. So please do pick those up too as well if you haven't read them. And let's keep it going strong. Again, we're gonna take a break next week, but we'll be back likely in 2 weeks to chat about some books and some news. But Chris, until then, happy reading for light and life.
I kept the ears on everybody the whole time.